DC just told me John said he's gonna run 4-2. That's what he told me.
There he goes.
He's moving.
Where'd our number go?
I don't know.
We got that number for you.
He's limping?
He's limping.
4-2-2.
No way.
So according to what we just...
4-2-2, and he limped. That's why he limping.
According to what
He
we
just ran
timed.
into an injury.
The year is 2017, and John Ross just broke Chris Johnson's 40-yard dash time by clocking in at a 4.22. And if you didn't know who Ross was before he ran, then you definitely knew who he was after. On that day, John Ross turned a lot of heads and became a combine legend. Ross played his college ball at Washington, and during his time at UW, Ross seemed to have gotten better each and every year. During his freshman and sophomore seasons, Ross was one of the most versatile players in the entire country. He was arguably the most explosive return man in the entire NCAA. But Ross was also a major vertical threat in a potent Huskies offense. But unfortunately, Ross would go on to miss his entire junior season due to a torn ACL he sustained during spring ball in 2015. But Ross did come back better than ever in his senior season. He finished the 2016 season with 17 receiving touchdowns, 1,150 receiving yards, to go along with 102 rush yards, a rushing touchdown, and even one kick return for a touchdown. Ross was named the Pac-12 Player of the Year, as well as a first-team All-American. Ross even led the Huskies to the college football playoff for the first time in school history. But unfortunately for Ross, early on in the Peach Bowl, he would once again suffer a major injury, this time tearing a labrum in his left shoulder. And while Washington would end up falling to Alabama, Ross made it quite clear that season that he was a generational athlete with some real potential to break out at the pro level. So that brings us to the 2017 Combine and Draft. Now, prior to the Combine, most analysts had Ross pegged as a late first rounder or early second round pick. But after his record-setting performance in Indy, he quickly shot up draft boards and even entered many mock drafts as the top wide receiver. So then fast forward to the 2017 draft. And by the 7th overall pick, there had already been 2 receivers drafted, with Corey Davis going to the Titans at 5 and Mike Williams going to the Chargers at 7th overall. But then came the Cincinnati Bengals with pick number 9.
With the 9th pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select John Ross, wide receiver, Washington.
Now, looking back, this pick might have been a stretch for Cincy. However, the Bengals were coming off a 6-9-1 season where they were only able to score 28 or more points twice. So it does make sense that the Bengals were looking to get a bit more explosive on offense. Now, hindsight is 20/20, but as we reflect back, the Bengals found themselves inside a future Hall of Famer sandwich, as Christian McCaffrey went 1 pick before Ross to the Panthers at 8, and then at 10th, the Chiefs ended up taking a quarterback named Patrick Mahomes. Okay, but now when we look at Ross's rookie season, it might have just been the worst in all of recent history. Going into the 2017 season, Ross was named the 6th overall receiver on the Bengals depth chart. During the season, he really struggled to see the field and only appeared in 3 total games before he re-injured his left shoulder in a Week 13 matchup against the Steelers. Ross finished his rookie year with 0 total catches and 1 rush for 12 yards. But on that 1 rush, he fumbled. It was definitely a year to forget for both Ross and the Bengals front office. Luckily, Ross saw significant improvement during the 2018 season. In the Bengals season opener against the Colts, Ross did score the team's first touchdown of the year with a 3-yard catch that helped lead the Bengals to a comeback win in Indy. Ross became a steady third option for the Bengals passing game for the rest of that season. He did go on to have 3 straight games with a receiving touchdown, however, it still felt like he was yet to play to his full potential. He would finish the 2018 season with 210 yards as well as a solid 7 receiving touchdowns. The Bengals ended their 2018 season going 6-10 overall. However, this year, it was mostly due to the defense giving up about 25 points a game. But then, 1 year later, a whole lot changed going into the 2019 season. First, the Bengals finally fired Marvin Lewis and instead hired Zach Taylor to be their new head coach. Taylor also took over the play calling duties in Cincy, with him focusing on a vertical attack offense. Meanwhile, Ross made a number change going from 15 to 11. Not sure why he did this, but he did. Then came week 1 in Seattle.
A couple of years, Uzama Starting to come into his own. Dalton, a little flea flicker action. He's got Ross, and he is into the end zone for the touchdown.
Ross absolutely burst onto the scene to start the season, and he was finally playing like the 9th overall pick should. Finally, Ross was fully healthy, and as such, he became almost unguardable. He finished week 1 against the Seahawks with 158 yards as well as 2 touchdowns. Taylor did a great job getting Ross the ball in space and allowing him to use his athleticism to run by defenders. Ross followed this impressive game by then having another great game with 112 yards and a touchdown against the 49ers. Now, unfortunately, the Bengals would go on to lose both of these games, but at the very least, John Ross had finally arrived.
And a catch made by Ross, and no one's going to catch him. He will go to the end zone for a touchdown.
But then a few weeks later, Ross once again re-injured his shoulder and was placed on injured reserve on October 2nd. After having arguably the best start in the entire NFL that year, Ross's season had quickly become derailed and he was once again fighting the injury bug. He was able to return for the Bengals' final 4 games of the season, and he was at least able to finish with 178 yards in those 4 games. But the 2020 season was brutal for Ross. He began the year by publicly asking to be traded, and he even shared it to social media. But ultimately, no trade ever came to be. Ross was listed as a healthy scratch for 5 games in 2020 before suffering a season-ending foot injury prior to Week 9. Even with Joe Burrow now as his quarterback, Ross ended the 2020 season with just 2 receptions for 17 total yards. At this point, it seemed like John Ross's time in the NFL was coming to an end as the Bengals decided not to re-sign him. But as a free agent ahead of the 2021 season, the New York Giants took a chance on him by signing him to a 1-year deal. To begin his tenure in New York, Ross was placed on injured reserve and missed the first 3 games of the season. But then in week 4, Ross was activated, and due to injuries with Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton, Ross was able to see a ton of time and finished with 77 yards and a touchdown against the New Orleans Saints. Unfortunately, this hot start in New York did not continue, and he finished 2021 with just 11 total catches for 224 total yards. After the season, Ross once again entered free agency, and he remained a free agent for the entirety of the next season. Then, on July 26th of 2023, John Ross announced that he was going to be retiring from football at the age of 27. However, after missing almost 2 entire seasons, Ross announced that he wanted to return to football, and he was quickly signed to a 1-year deal to the Philadelphia Eagles. He remained a practice squad player for most of his time in Philly. However, Ross was elevated to the 52-man roster in a Week 4 game against the Buccaneers, as Philly was missing both A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith for that game. In that game, Ross only saw 2 targets and had 1 catch for just 6 yards. He would then go on to be released by the Eagles on December 6th. And that kind of brings us to the present day. I mean, here's hoping Ross can at the very least be rewarded a Super Bowl ring for his efforts while in Philly this season. In Ross's 6 full seasons in the NFL, he only played in 38 total games. He currently has 963 total receiving yards to go along with 11 total receiving touchdowns. With Ross being the 9th overall pick in the 2017 draft, it's pretty safe to say that he is a certified bust in the league. But who knows? Maybe he could still change the narrative if given one more opportunity. Just because someone performs well at the combine doesn't mean they're going to be a baller when the pads are on. At the very least, Ross will always be remembered for his blazing fast 40-yard dash time. Well, actually, this might not even be true anymore, seeing as his 40-yard record would go on to be broken in 2024 by Xavier Worthy. Unfortunately, it does seem like Ross's career will be defined as a what could have been, had it not been for the multitude of injuries he suffered throughout his career. Well guys, thanks for checking out this video. Please drop a big like on it and hit that subscribe button. And also, be sure to check out this video here to see what team should go all in and get Myles Garrett.